All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Kathleen Springer, and I would like to welcome you to our Living Donors Together event. I'm the board chair for the National Kidney Foundation of Wisconsin. I've been with the organization coming up on 7 years, and I'm honored to make the introductions tonight. I've been introduced to this organization through the work that I did through Aurora, and I'm through Aurora Abdominal Transplant, and I'm continuing to work with the entire organization, and I'm just honored and just appreciative of the opportunity to make the introductions today. One of the first things that I would like to do is introduce Mike Crowley. I'm not sure, I'm hoping all of you had the opportunity to see our press releases, but Mike joined our team yesterday. He is a gentleman that comes to us with a lot of experience in nonprofit work. He works, he previously was the CEO for the Habitat for Humanity in Waukesha County. And he's currently a Waukesha County supervisor. It's an elected position, and he's got many honors and accolades that we would be, that I'm sure you noticed on the press release if you had seen it. Mike comes to us with a great deal of compassion and empathy and passion for helping people. His son is a patient who has a young man who has grown up with juvenile diabetes, and Mike was a part of the organization his son's whole life, and he's been the past president. He was also one of the youngest presidents of that organization, and he was also successful in bringing the $1 Million Ride to that organization. So Mike comes to us with a lot of experience, and we're really excited to have him join us and share his passion for helping people. He's really looking forward to meeting each and every person that he comes and hears about and knows does our education, and he can't wait to start meeting all of you. So I would like for us all to take the opportunity to meet Mike, and we'll make those introductions as time goes on. So the agenda for today is going to be a quite exciting one. I'm going to be making some introductions, and we're going to be talking about some real stories from some real people. And there's going to be an opportunity for questions and answers at the end of the presentation, and then we'll wrap it up. So I would like to go ahead and just take care of some housekeeping items. The first is during the meeting, you can click on the participants button, which is on the lower portion of your screen, to make sure that your name is appropriately being displayed. If not, by renaming yourself, we'll be able to make sure that we get your information correct. And the screen will show you where it is that participant button is. And if you need to change your name, if you click on that, then you'll have an opportunity to edit your name if you click on it. And then if the name is not correct, you can go ahead and change it, hit enter, and then it will be reflective correctly on the display for your picture. And another thing that's going to be really great is you're going to have an opportunity to watch and ask questions at the same time. We would really, truly appreciate it if you would keep yourself muted. And then in the meeting, if you would like to ask a question, which we truly encourage, and we really hope that you do, we will be communicating that with the leaders. You hit the chat button, which is on the lower part of your screen as well. And then you can comment on anything, make questions. You can offer advice, you can say hello, but you can use that chat option on the side of your screen. Once you press it, it will appear. And then as far as the microphone icon on the bottom left of your screen, this is going to give you the opportunity to mute and unmute yourself. So we'd really appreciate that. As you can see, it's shown there, the mute button on the lower left-hand part of the screen. But during the presentation, if you keep yourself muted and put all of your questions and comments in the box, it'll give us an opportunity to save them as well as to answer them. So thanks for that. The videos icon, the use of videos icon next to the microphone, can stop your stream of your picture being shown on the video. So if you'd like to, put yourself on the background, you can hit the start video button, and it'll take your picture away. We may choose to turn the video off during the meeting. However, If we choose to not do that, you will have the option to do that on your own if you should so choose as well. And there's a picture of where the video icon button is on the lower left-hand part of your screen next to the microphone. There's a couple of things that you can do to continue to help support this awesome organization. I mean, first of all, we want to thank you for being here. But in other ways in which you can do this, you can make us your charity. We do have Amazon Smile. And if you would select the National Kidney Foundation as your charity of choice, we would get a percentage of the proceeds from Amazon on your behalf. And so we would greatly appreciate that opportunity for you to make us your charity of choice. There's another option that we're going to be able to do. We do have our kidney cars, and that is an option too for you too. If you're wanting to get rid of a car and put it, and they'll come and pick it up, make a call, and then you will be given a tax deduction for that, in addition to getting that car off of your hands, and you'll be putting it not only to a great cause with the proceeds, but then you'll get a tax deduction and you'll be able to help the people who are going to be working on them and supporting them in the work that they do. John, is there another slide? There we go. Now I'd like to officially kick off our great program. I'd like to introduce two very special people to you. Michelle Schurman, she's a living kidney donor, and also Jill Dillon. So I would like to turn it over to them and they'll take over and welcome Michelle and Jill and making this awesome event possible. Over to you.
Thank you, Kathleen. Hopefully you can all hear me.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Well, welcome everybody. Welcome to our very first webinar of 2021. And we really appreciate all of you being here. If you are a living donor, fantastic. If you're thinking about being a living donor, even better. It is a club that you will always want to be a part of, as those of you who are living donors know. And as you can see there, Michelle and I are full of all kinds of fun activities since we have donated, and hopefully at some point you can join us for some of those in the future. Hopefully the picture in the middle is from the Capital City 5K, which happens every year, except for in 2020 when nothing happened and we had to do that virtually. So we actually look forward to this upcoming year and some of the events that we have planned, and hopefully you have joined us on our Facebook page, Living Donors Together of Wisconsin. And on that page, we try to post all of the upcoming information on any events that we may have, and certainly anything that we think might be of interest to you as living donors or as potential living donors. And certainly if you know any living donors in Wisconsin, or people who've donated in Wisconsin, or again, people who are considering donating in Wisconsin, certainly ask them to join our Facebook page. We love to have everybody involved and love to see those numbers go up. So please ask them to join us. I know we have a couple of great speakers tonight here to tell us their story, but the very first thing we want to do is actually turn it over to Sara Hicklin. Sara is a transplant recipient herself, and she is also our advocacy guru. She will always has a great update for us on everything that's kind of going on at the political level as far as the world of transplant. So Sara, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We always love hearing from you. So go ahead and take it away and let us know what's new.
Thank you, Jill. Good evening, everybody. As Jill said, my name is Sara Hicklin, and I provide the advocacy updates to this group. Most of you already know my connection to kidney disease and living donation, but for those who don't, here are the highlights. I received a kidney transplant from a living donor in August of 2018. My transplant was made possible by an anonymous donor who stepped forward on my behalf after she learned about my need. She is blood type O and I'm blood type A. So when the transplant coordinator called me, I was given the option of getting her kidney directly or joining the paired exchange, which would allow her to give to a type O recipient, and then they would find the best match for me. And because that was the best bang for the buck, that was the option that I chose. So she donated her kidney in July, and I received my kidney from someone in Ohio in August of 2018. I have since met that anonymous person, so she's no longer anonymous to me. She is a member of this group. And I have not yet heard anything from the actual donor in Ohio, so I hope that I can do that at some point. I have polycystic kidney disease, and I'm one of 3 siblings who have received transplants, 2 of us from living donors and the 3rd from a deceased donor. We were all very fortunate that we received our transplants before we needed to go on dialysis. We recognize how lucky we are in that respect, and we're all doing extremely well. The one who got her transplant the longest ago was almost 10 years, and I'm just over 2 years out. And we have a brother in between who's about 5 years out now. So before I was even listed for transplant, I started volunteering for my transplant center's organ procurement organization. And then after transplant, I actually started applying before, but after transplant, I was accepted as part of the Kidney Advocacy Committee, which is part of the National Kidney Foundation. I'm wearing their garb tonight. We get these lovely orange scarves, and I have a little pin that is a kidney with the capital on it. I'll tell you in a few minutes why I'm wearing that garb. But I'm very passionate about this work and about advocating for kidney disease. So if you would go to the first slide, please. Thank you. This is the status of the 117th Congress, which just started earlier this month. Because of the Georgia runoff elections, the Democrats do have control of the Senate. Well, it's a 50-50 split, and the vice president is the one who would be the tiebreaker. Our 2 senators from Wisconsin are Tammy Baldwin and Ron Johnson. Neither one of them was up for re-election in this past election. So Ron Johnson's seat will come up for re-election in 2022, and Tammy Baldwin's seat will come up for re-election in 2024. So we don't have to worry about senators from Wisconsin for a while. The biggest shift in the House of Representatives is in District 5, where Scott Fitzgerald was elected. He replaces the retiring Jim Sensenbrenner, and Scott Fitzgerald was previously the Wisconsin Senate Majority Leader. The other name that you might not recognize on that list is Tom Tiffany. He was actually elected in March of 2020 in a special election after Sean Duffy resigned from that seat, and then he was again reelected in November. So that's the status of the current Wisconsin congressional delegation. And then if you go to the next slide, thank you. So as of right now, Congress has been a little bit preoccupied on things like COVID and trying to revamp some election laws that they're doing at the federal level. So right now, none of the bills that were in front of the 116th Congress have been reintroduced. We're hoping to have that done soon. There is going to be a 2021 Kidney Summit coming up, which I'll tell you about in a minute. And we're hoping to have the Living Donor Protection Act reintroduced before that summit. Otherwise, we'll be looking for champions to introduce that legislation. The immunosuppressive drug bill, this is very important. It was actually signed into law at the end of 2020. It was included in a package at the very end of the year. There was a lot of things. You might have heard talk about the 5,000-page bill. That included a lot of legislation, including our immunosuppressive drug bill. So the president did sign that into law, and it'll take some time to get all the details worked out. But what that means is that recipients like myself normally right now only get coverage under Medicare for our immunosuppressive drugs for the first 3 years after transplant. And with this new law, we will be eligible for that drug coverage for lifetime under Medicare Part B. It's a huge deal. I'll be honest with you, right now, it doesn't impact me. I have great employer health coverage, and that's who covers my immunosuppressive drugs. But if I were to lose my job, if I got laid off, thankfully I haven't been through everything going on with COVID. But if that were to happen, I could go right back on Medicare Part B and continue to get my immunosuppressive drugs. So it's a really huge development. Very, very proud that NKF has been working on this for well over a decade. So it's very good that that was finally signed into law. And there was a presidential executive order that was kidney friendly. It improved access to in-home dialysis, made more kidneys available for transplant and other things, and that will stay in effect unless President Biden retracts or overrides it. We don't anticipate that happening at all. So I mentioned the 2021 Virtual Kidney Summit. We did have one late in the year in 2020. And now we're kind of back on schedule, and we're having a virtual summit again scheduled for March 2nd. We will have a training. Those of us who are participating will have a training on February 25th. It's only about 2 hours long. Generally, Mary Balaker, who is the other Kidney Advocacy Committee member, and I will both attend the summit. But I'm going to have a huge ask for all of you that are on the meeting today. If you live in Wisconsin and if you would be interested in attending the meeting, the virtual meeting with your representative, please email me. I've been going back and forth with NKF staff in New York trying to get this organized today. And we haven't worked out the details. So I'm going to give you my email address, and I'm sorry I didn't get it on the slide. It's S like Sarah, HICKLIN, the number 2 @charter.net. And all that would be involved for you to participate is to take 5 minutes to tell your story of why you became a living donor. The reason why we want living donors to speak, if at all possible, is because of this reintroduction of the Living Donor Protection Act. It would especially be great if you have had some challenges related to living donations, such as difficulties with your employer in getting the time off work, having an increase in rates for insurance, such as long-term care insurance or life insurance, if you've recently applied for life insurance. If you've had any of those struggles related to being a living donor, we would love for you to tell your story for 5 minutes. And then Mary Balaker and I would do the rest of the meeting with your congressional representative and take care of the asks that NKF is going to want us to do. So again, my email is my first initial S, my last name, HICKLIN, the number 2 @charter.net if you're interested in being included in one of those meetings. And then, excuse me, so the way I advocate is by doing these political activities. That's not everybody's passion. I certainly recognize that. So it's important for you to share your story in the way that you are most comfortable. You never know who you might inspire to also become a kidney donor. Using social media, if you're on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, the hashtag #MyKidneysMyLife brings the post to the attention of the National Kidney Foundation. If you are able to do presentations to local groups, whether it's a church group or an organization such as the Lions Club, they're very active in the donation community, but maybe the Eagles Club or one of those other fraternal organizations. Zoom is a great platform that can be used, and PowerPoint is surprisingly easy to put together. And we are always looking for new advocates on the Kidney Advocacy Committee. So if you're interested in that, use my email again and I'll get you more information. We highly recommend letters to the editor about your donation experience, why you did it, and again, once we get this bill reintroduced, why it's important. And then I'd love to hear from any of you of what else you do to promote living kidney donation in particular, and just kidney issues in general. So anybody who's on the call, if you want to add to the chat and let us know what you're doing, we just love to hear those stories. And that's it from me.
Excellent. Thank you so very much, Sarah, for sharing that information. We appreciate so much that you share and educate and inspire us to get involved and to advocate for organ donation. Thank you, because without you, I'm always like, what do I do? Where do I go? So thank you for sharing that information. We'll make sure that we, in addition to having the recording of tonight's program on the Living Donors Together Wisconsin page, as well as the National Kidney Foundation of Wisconsin page, we'll make sure to share those specific call to actions with our group. So thank you very much for that.
Sure.
And I'm over here, working away, not distracted and doing personal things. And we are troubleshooting some issues with the Facebook Live on our Living Donors Together of Wisconsin page. So don't think I'm distracted over here. We got some technical difficulties happening in the background, but for those who are watching on Facebook Live, I did just send in the Facebook group the registration to link for Zoom, so you could try that if you are experiencing technical difficulties. And with that, it looks like Yvonne is back with us. She was experiencing some volume issues, and I just want to give a quick shout out before I introduce Karen to Yvonne, who publicly posted on our Living Donors page that she's donating tomorrow to her life partner. So Yvonne, positive mojo, we're sending you extra strength for tomorrow's journey. So thank you for that life-saving gift. And with that, I am thrilled to introduce our speakers this evening. I'll start first with Karen. Karen lives in Neenah, Wisconsin, and she is a business owner of 32 years. Her business is manufacturing decals and signs. Good to know. Always good to have somebody in your line of work. Karen donated her kidney to her mom's brother's wife, so her Aunt Ruth, on September 26, 2017. Karen donated out of state at the Shands Transplant Center, University of Florida, Gainesville. Karen has one grown daughter who is married and also lives in Neenah, Wisconsin. So Karen, with that, thank you so much for being here this evening, and we'd love for you to share your story.
Thank you. So yes, I'm Karen and I'm a living donor. My kidney journey in my brain started in 2014. My mom had called and said my aunt and uncle were retiring early and moving to Florida, to the villages. And I had said, well, why are they moving away? And her comment was, they're hoping for 3 good years in Florida. And that statement really stuck in my brain. I thought about it off and on for a while. They moved. So, fast forward a couple years, we're at the summer of 2016 and we're at a family graduation party. And my aunt was there. And so I sat down, we started talking and we started talking about how she was feeling. And I had heard her siblings, so she's a hereditary kidney disease. Her father had it. He did receive a transplant, but died shortly after. And then they tested the children, and Ruth had the kidney disease. Her other siblings were tested, but they were not able to donate. She had said a couple of friends had stepped up and were possibly going to donate. And so I just started asking questions, and we started talking about blood type and found out she was B positive and I'm B positive. So my little brain, kind of went, oh, wow, that little moment. And then, we talked about donation and she knew a lot and filled me in on, more specifics. And so after that graduation party, I went home. And my mother filled me in the fall that things were progressing. She was heading towards stage 4 quite quickly. And they thought she would possibly be in stage 4 by Christmas. So about that time is when I really said, okay, I've been thinking about this too much. Something is going off in my body and in my brain telling me I need to do something. And so I said to my family right after Christmas, I said, I want to donate my kidney. And they all just looked at me and went, really? And I said, yeah. I said, I really want to try. I think I can. I think I'm healthy enough at age 55. I thought, I'm not out of shape. I'm not, super in shape, have issues here and there. I've been through major surgeries before, but I figured, I think I can do this. So I asked my whole family and I said, if anybody says no, it's okay. I will be okay if you say no. I'm not going to say anything. They immediately all said yes. Then I asked my employees, same thing. I had a lot of people to be responsible for, and I wanted to make sure they were all on board. And they, of course, all said yes. And for the fact that I was going out of state and knew I would have to take time off, that was the main thing. And they were all absolutely amazing. So I filled out the paperwork in January 2017. for Shands, got a hold of the person down there, the donor advocate, and they started the process. I did a couple tests here in Neenah. They sent everything down to Shands, and by July, I was at my first visit in Florida. They live in the Villages, which is about an hour south, Gainesville. It's a wonderful city. Their Shands Transplant Center is amazing. And that's basically why they went there to the Villages, because they knew the Shands Center was there. She'd been getting great care already. She was on a transplant list. So our big July date of testing was one day. And I'm going to read my list. So 22 vials of blood, an ultrasound, a CT scan, a renal scan, chest x-ray, transplant surgical consult, a transplant coordination meeting, transplant social worker consult, a dietitian consult, and then a meeting at the end of the day with my donor advocate. So after that huge day of amazing things, seeing my CT scan in person with the surgeon and going over, where everything was, what the kidneys look like, was beyond words. I was thrilled when they started getting all this information together. And by the end of the day, things were looking very positive. And one of the things they had said is, would I be willing to donate to somebody else if I was not a match for my aunt? And I said, absolutely. That with her being in stage 4, I knew we needed to get her a kidney before she hit dialysis. So we were really pushing hard. They were figuring by the end of 2017, she could possibly be on dialysis. That was really my main concern. So went home from Florida. 2 weeks later, got the phone call. Everything was great. The only thing they needed left from me was to find somebody to come to Florida with me. I was going to stay with my aunt and uncle after surgery, but I needed a caregiver on my own because my uncle couldn't be responsible for both me and my aunt. If something happened to my aunt and he had to leave with her, they didn't want me left alone. So my brother stepped up, and my brother's actually in the picture standing with me. He got a medical leave, family medical leave. He was in the Army in Washington, D.C. And so he went down with me and spent those 2 weeks. It was amazing. Surgery was unbelievable. My aunt, now, I don't know if anybody knew this now, but the kidney, I always thought the kidneys were removed. Well, nowadays they're not. So my aunt has 3 kidneys, 2 that don't work and 1 that does. And they have that little spot that kidney just fits right into. It's amazing. And she sailed through surgery. She was up walking within hours. She walked to my room. The picture that I gave was right after surgery, and she even has beautiful color. She just looks like a new person. That kidney made that much difference immediately for her. And I did great in surgery. My only issue was a huge migraine, which I get migraines a lot, so it was not unusual for me to have that. If it weren't for the migraine, I probably would have been up dancing too. I mean, it was that great. We are 3 years and 5 months out of surgery, and she is doing fabulous. I remember seeing her box of pills, and I'm not kidding, the box was huge. It was like a large bin of, 15 plus kinds of pills that she was on, and taking them 3 times a day. It was really hard to see that. And she's down to, I think 3 pills right now. I haven't seen her since surgery, and I'm really hoping they get to come to Wisconsin this year. I miss her. I talk to her, every month. We text a lot. Her smile in the picture is just huge. I can't say enough of how it's changed our lives and our family's lives to have that chance for her to have that retirement that she's always dreamed of. I mean, me at 55 giving the kidney, I kept thinking, if that were me, how would I feel not having that chance to live out my years with my spouse and be happy? I'd worked so hard for that. It just, I don't know, it was easy to do. It was the right thing to do. I can't imagine if you were given that opportunity and everything went well, that you wouldn't want to do it, and to even donate to somebody that you didn't know if you couldn't donate to your family member or friend. I was reading some statistics today, and over 100,000 people are on the kidney wait list right now. That just blew me away again. I know I read these statistics years ago, but it still just hurts to think that people are waiting and waiting when we have so many people living that could be giving kidneys today. I know the chances of a person keeping a living donor kidney is actually better than a deceased kidney transplant. They give it, I think, like an extra 5 years. It's like 15 to 20 years for a living kidney and 10 to 15 years for the deceased kidney. So any extra push we can give these people to help feel better and live full lives, you know, like Ruth and I talk, she has her forever kidney. We feel like this is going to be it for her for the rest of her life. It was just the best. And Shan's, I cannot say enough of the people. I mean, I can only imagine all the other transplant centers are as good as they are. So caring, so loving, so respectful, so, I mean, I just informative. They met every need that I had, especially being out of state. You know, financial issues, there weren't any. They covered everything. And if I wouldn't have stayed with my aunt, I would have been able to have housing paid for right there. So there weren't any obstacles for me at all. Plus, there's all kinds of financial assistance available to be able to donate. So never ever think that money is an obstacle to giving a gift of a kidney anywhere in the United States. I mean, it's all possible. That's what all these people work for, to make it possible for all the donors that, or all the transplant recipients that need them. So that's really my story in a nutshell. It couldn't have been better for both Ruth and I. And we're truly blessed.
Thank you, Karen, so very much for sharing your story. And I had the opportunity to meet Karen and Heather both this past summer as part of a grad school project. And just hearing you tell this story, you just feel that love and connection to your Aunt Ruth, and that piece that for all of us as we are in our journey and finding our way, and how that resonates with us. Very emotional, very touching. Thank you so much, and glad to hear that she is doing well. That's wonderful.
Yeah, it's a blessing, no doubt.
Very much so, very much so. And we're going to save Q&A till the end after Heather shares her story as well. But if you have burning questions or things you'd like to share with Karen, please do so in the chat now if you would like, and we will recap those in the Q&A portion. And also be ready to unmute yourself and ask your question live to our guest speakers this evening. With that, I would like to introduce Heather. Heather was called to donate 2 years ago to Sherry, who she met through her faith-based community. And I see Sherry's beautiful face, smiling face here tonight on this Zoom call. So Sherry, thank you for joining us. Tonight, Heather is excited to share her 9-month-long journey of wrestling with the thought of donation, and truly how grateful she was for the opportunity to take the next step forward and become a living donor. Heather is connected to the UW Transplant Center, and she is also thrilled this evening that her husband Robert and her son Miles are listening in. As we joked earlier today, they may be listening in from different corners of the house, the joys of our new virtual realities. With that, Heather, thank you so much for being here, and please share your story.
Thanks so much for having me. I just love hearing all the stories that people share and all the ways that people, come together to bring this community alive and just keep this going for people that do need kidneys. So thank you so much for having me. Everyone just has such a unique story to share, and it's so inspiring. So let's dive in, shall we? So Sherry, my recipient, and I really didn't know each other that well. She sang in the praise band at church on Sundays at 11 o'clock, and her husband, Hal, played the piano. And I knew that she needed a kidney, but I didn't really know any of the details of that. I actually learned about it through a prayer chain where her niece, Jennifer, had tested, and she had gotten really far along in the process. And when you get towards the end and they're testing, you're just waiting to hear like, is this going to be a match or isn't this going to be a match? And we were getting really excited. I know I was getting really excited for Sherry because I felt like she had been waiting so long for a kidney. And then we got the news that she wasn't a match. And it was so, so heartbreaking. And I remember sitting in the pew at church when that announcement was made, and this little thing kind of bubbled up inside me, this little thought, and wondered, could I be a match? And immediately after that thought bubble came up, I was like, that is a crazy idea. Boop. I don't know Sherry that well. We just go to church together, and that's just crazy. So it was shortly after that it just kind of kept bubbling up. And then things started happening. Like I would get in my car and Caleb would be on and they would be sharing a kidney story, or I'd come across something on the news, or it just seemed like kidney stories kept coming and coming. And then we would just be going about our regular life, and we would run into Sherry and Hal at Costco, which is 42 miles from our house. Like, it's not just a random store in our town. We live in a pretty small town where we'd run into each other. So as things like that kept happening and kept happening, after about 3 months, I decided I was going to share this little thought bubble with my husband. And I said, hey, Robert, I think maybe I should get tested and see if I'm a match for Sherry and the kidney. And so then he became a thought bubble popper. And immediately he said, I think about the same thing I did. He said, I think that's crazy, honey. And the bubble popped. And so we just kind of went on with life, and it just kept happening. But we kept running into Sherry and Hal, and both of us would just kind of look at each other and be surprised that we'd run into them at Costco. And then more kidney stories came. And I remember one day I was only in the car for 2 minutes. And on that 2-minute journey, they were talking about a husband and wife who had donated the wife had donated to the husband, and they were joking around how nobody could top that Christmas present. And it was just a really, really funny story. So of course I called my husband and said, hey, I got another kidney story. And so we were kind of sitting on the fence. Like, I sat on the fence alone for 3 months, and then he joined me on the fence, and we sat there again for about 6 more months. And finally, after about 9 months of sitting on the fence was getting pretty uncomfortable. And I was really wrestling with the emotions of what's going to drive this forward. Am I going to live in fear of surgery, fear of something going wrong, fear of only having one kidney, fear of not being in control? Or was I going to trust? Was I going to trust that the doctors could perform the surgery? Was I going to trust that I could live just fine with one kidney? Was I going to trust that I could make healthy decisions with one kidney? Was I going to trust that it was okay not to be in control? And so as these thoughts kept forming, it almost seemed like as I went down that path of trust, it was almost like these little hope bubbles just kept bubbling up and bubbling up. And so we were given the grace to kind of embrace the hope bubble. And that hope bubble needed a little bit of confidence. And so I just kept asking the Lord for guidance and direction. What path should I go forward on? And I prayed and asked and prayed and asked. And it would probably take an hour to share all the times that the Lord was confirming along the way, like, yes, this is what I'm asking you to do. This is what I'm, asking you to step into, this kind of faith journey. And it was finally at about that 9-month mark that I was just like, okay, Lord, like, if this is really what you want me to do, like, I just really need some kind of confirmation. And it was shortly after that, like hours or that afternoon, that I had to run to Walmart for something. And I ran into Sherry at Walmart. And Walmart's a quarter mile from my house. And I think that's the only time I've ever ran into Sherry at Walmart. then or now. Like it's a place that would have been common for us to run into each other, but we hadn't. And right after I prayed that prayer, we did run into each other. So I just was like, okay, we're supposed to get tested. Like I'm supposed to get tested and we're supposed to just take the next step forward. So after I came home, after saying that prayer, I shared it with my husband, like this is the sequence of events. And he agreed. He's like, yeah, I think this is what, you're being called to do. Let's go ahead and get tested. And then it kind of got a little fun because then we're like, okay, I'm going to get tested. This means I'm going to tell Sherry. So how do we want to tell Sherry, like I'm going to get tested for her? And we decided that I was going to go over Christmas Eve service because we had just gone to Florida and had a vacation and we had decided this is what we were going to do. And I came back and it was close to Christmas. We said, we'll wait till Christmas Eve service. I'll just go up and talk to her after Christmas Eve service because she'd be there, I'd be there. It'd be a good time to do that. So it was at Christmas Eve service. Fortunately, we had the opportunity to have my family over for Christmas, which was unexpected. So my whole family is here having dinner and everything. And I just kind of slip out and I'm like, I gotta go run an errand. I'll be back in a little while. And I went to church, sat in church. And then after church service, I went up and I sat next to Sherry. And I just said, hey, I think that we'd like to, test for you and see if my kidney might be a match for you. And of course she was very emotional. It was very, very emotional moment. And then she shared with me how 12 other people had tested for her. And I thought, oh my gosh, like I've gone through one emotional roller coaster of getting excited to have a kidney and experiencing that disappointment of not giving a kidney. And she had gone through this 12 times. I could not believe. I thought the only thing I could relate it to was like the hope of a pregnancy and then just never having a baby. I was so heartbroken over it. And so as that continued to just settle on me, I just kept praying, like, just let my kidney be a match so that she doesn't have to have like one more disappointment in her life. Like she'd been through so much already. And so, after that, it was shortly after that conversation that I reached out to, she was connected with University of Wisconsin-Madison, UW-Madison. So I reached out to UW-Madison and I got connected with Shannon Tusick, my transplant coordinator. She is amazing. She got me all the paperwork. We got that kind of all figured out. And then it was in February that I actually went up for testing. And for anybody that hasn't been through the process, testing is extensive, which is really, really comforting, but also like plan the whole day to be there because you're going to go, like Karen said, you're going to go through anything from blood draws to EKGs to a CAT scan to meeting with a social worker to meeting with a nephrologist, and they're just very, very extensive. I was very fortunate to have taken my husband and son along with me to this day of testing, which was probably the best decision in that journey that we could have made, because then they were there, they got all the same information I got. They were able to ask all the questions. And I know we left there feeling much more knowledgeable and at ease. The thing that brought me the most peace in the process was learning that my kidney would actually come out, my kidney being removed would actually come out through my C-section scar, which I thought was amazing because my C-section is the only other surgery I'd ever had. And when I was pregnant with my son, Miles, all the way up until 8 months, I was determined that I was going to have him all natural with a midwife. I wasn't going to do an epidural or anything. And I went into my appointment, my standard Thursday appointment, and they did an ultrasound because my belly was so big. And they said, you're having this baby either tomorrow or Monday. And I'm like, I'm a month from my due date. I was not prepared. I was not prepared for surgery, nothing. It was a complete shocker. I was terrified all weekend. But come to find out, they had told me I couldn't go into labor because I would break his shoulder if he was born. Well, come to find out the umbilical cord was actually around his neck 5 times. So had I gone into labor, he probably wouldn't have survived it, probably unlikely. So to have that kidney coming out through that C-section scar just gave me that sense of like, this has all happened for a reason. You're here at this time, and this is all purposeful. There's nothing that's left to chance here. And so that brought me just a lot of peace. So that experience, I guess that experience kind of allowed me to kind of have trust that doctors knew what needed to be done and how to do it. So it kind of all led up to that. After the testing, the transplant team meets to decide whether you're a match or not. So if they take all the tests and they review them all, and they look at Sherry's file and they look at my file, and they determine whether this is going to work. And during that time, that process can take 2 to 3 weeks, which kind of seems like an eternity, even though it's 2 to 3 weeks, because you're both waiting with this like hopeful excitement, but uncertainty. So during that time is when they tell you about paired exchange. And so we took that time as a family to really consider, if I wasn't a direct match for Sherry, would I then go ahead and donate to somebody else to kind of set up a chain reaction where Sherry would end up with a kidney in the end. And we kind of came to the conclusion that, yeah, we felt like we were being really called to this at this time. So if that was the plan, then we would go forward with paired exchange and see how that went. Fortunately, though, Sherry and I were a match. And so I had ordered this stuffed kidney off of Amazon. It's just this cute little stuffed kidney. Who knew that they made stuffed kidneys? But I ordered it in anticipation of when I did get the news of whether we were a match or not. And we got the news on March 13th. So it was about 2 weeks later, I got the news, and I called my husband right away and I said, okay, honey, I got the news, we're a match. So when you get home, we need to drive over to Sherry and Hal's house and tell them that we're a match. So we did, we got the stuffed kidney, we went over, we knocked on their door, we told them that we were a match. And it's hard to explain that moment of this is happening. And this is meant, it's like, this is meant to be for right now, this is happening. And it was really excited. It's like when you're a little kid, those first Christmas mornings, and there's just so much anticipation and excitement. It's kind of like that. So that was really, really special. Our surgery was on April 25th, 2019. There were a lot of tests and preparations and everything to get in order. Sherry had a few complications right before surgery. And I remember thinking, oh goodness, did I wait on the fence too long? Are we gonna make it to this surgery? And I think we were both very relieved when they gave us the okay for surgery. The morning of surgery was a little bit of a shocker for me because every time I went up to UW-Madison, my surgeon was in surgery. And I would jokingly tell my transplant coordinator, oh, it's okay, let him practice on whoever he needs to as much as he needs to before it's my turn. But I think in my head, I always imagined on the morning of surgery, kind of like an older man or older woman coming in and introducing themselves. So when this surgeon came in and he looked all of 18, I was beside myself. And I remembered thinking, I am so glad I did not scream, have you done any of these surgeries before? Because, sometimes our human filters just don't work. But I did get wheeled off to surgery thinking, I trust you, Lord. I trust you, Lord. I trust you, Lord. And then the elevator was closed, and that's all I remember. I guess surgery went well. I don't remember any of it, obviously, which is a good thing. I guess it was about 4 hours long. I remember waking up in recovery, and then several hours later, Sherry was wheeled up into the room next to me. And then we were like schoolgirls, just talking through the walls. The kidney was working, and it was really working. And it was just a lot of excitement. I stayed that night. The next day I was released from the hospital. So it was just an overnight stay in the hospital. Recovery went really well. I took Tylenol for 7 to 10 days, nothing any stronger than that. It was about a week after I got released from the hospital, I was able to get out of the house and walk to the neighbor's driveway and back. Now that's usually about a 45-second walk. It did take probably about 20 minutes. but every day it just got a little bit stronger, a little bit stronger. I think by the end of the next week, I had made it to the end of the block and back. And then after that, it just really went well. Something that I missed in all of the conversations were that you can't be submerged in water. I think it's like 6 weeks or 8 weeks after surgery. I think it's 6. And that's probably not usually a big deal, but I love warm baths and swimming pools and the ocean. And so that was actually harder for me, a surgery recovery wise, than the physical discomfort of it. So to give you an idea, it's really not a big deal. If you can go without taking a bath and just showering for 6 weeks, like, you're able to donate a kidney. Of course, if you're healthy enough, but I'm just saying it's a lot easier than you would think it is. And now being almost 2 years out, if you ask me if I do it again, I would say absolutely, in a heartbeat. I wouldn't have waited so long to do it. It's so much easier. On the other side of it, it's like a little blip in your life. It just kind of flies by. And at the same time, it's amazing that, you give something away, but you get so much more in return. It makes no sense, but it's the way that it is. Life is so much richer. I have such a better relationship with Miles, my son, and Robert, my husband, because we had to come together as a family unit and make this happen. We had to work through all the emotions of it, work through all the conversations, and then also the practical things. Like, Robert went and got the groceries and did everything for 6 weeks. And Miles, did a ton of extra chores and learned how to cook. And it was like we were really in it together, but it was also a very peaceful time, because you kind of got the freedom of pausing the rest of your life for 6 weeks and saying, like, this is where I'm at right now, and this is what I'm meant to do right now, and everything else can just wait. So that was just really beautiful and amazing. I guess that's pretty much it. I would say definitely, like, get tested, see if you can help somebody. Like Karen said, I read the same statistics today, over 100,000 people, and that just floors me, because really, I can't tell any difference not having a kidney, 1 kidney versus 2 kidneys. Yeah, I'm a little bit more conscientious about what I eat or how much I drink, but those are all good things too. So I guess thank you so much for taking the time to hear my story, and I just can't wait to hear your story too.
Excellent. Thank you so very much, Heather, for sharing that very thoughtful, meaningful connection, and all those little, if you want to say, I don't want chance encounters, but very, very special encounters that you had with Sherry. Sherry, you're on this evening. Would you like to unmute yourself and say anything?
Am I unmuted now? Yay! Yay! I am, you did it. Oh, my husband. Yeah, I went through a lot with peritoneal dialysis. I did for every night for 3 years, and also was put on regular dialysis, which my port fell out several times. So I was really not feeling very good. And as you know, with kidney, you just bloat up because it's water. You can't pee anymore. So so I was getting to the point where it was like, oh my gosh, I don't know how long I'm going to survive. I just felt so bad. 24 hours with peritoneal, and that's, they kept adding more fluid to get rid of what I was holding. So it was a hard time. It really was a hard time. And then Heather just blew me away on Christmas Eve. How awesome is that? It just blows me away. But yeah, God has been through both of us throughout this whole thing, this whole process. So, and still today we find little things that happen every day. So it's kind of cool. And we'll always have this connection forever. We're kidney sisters. So it's just been awesome. So thank you for this time for us to share both sides of the story.
That's wonderful. Glad to hear that you were doing so well. Thank you for popping on here.
Sure.
We are nearing the end of our program, but we want to open it up for any questions that anyone may have of any of our speakers this evening. I didn't see anything come through the chat. Great job, Karen and Heather, for explaining the highlights and the details. But if anyone, we will watch to see if anyone unmutes themselves and would like to answer any or ask any questions.
You know what, I just wanted to pop, if it's okay, I just wanted to pop back in. I kind of wrote everything out so I wouldn't forget anything, but there was a part that I wanted to share. So even though Sharon and I didn't know each other very well at the beginning of the whole journey, now we're 2 years out. Now she's like a true sister to me, a wiser sister that I always wanted but didn't know I needed. And we share so much. I mean, I shared my kidney with her, so I feel like there's not much I can't share with her, obviously. But then she's just so funny, and we have so much fun together. And like, if we're ever thinking similarly, we kind of have this little thing where we go, it must be a same kidney thing. So it's just really cool how we went from not knowing each other that well to being, I mean, she is like a sister to me, so it's wonderful.
And she gave me the love of sugar. I mean, I never ate sugar before. They say that happens sometimes, but yeah, that's kind of funny.
Absolutely love it. I love the connection that the two of you have. And as someone who donated to a non-relative as well, I'm thrilled that you guys have that special connection to each other. So thank you again. Thank you to Karen, to Heather, to Sherry for sharing your stories. We're going to wrap up this evening. John, if we can see the slide deck to take us through, does Jill get to speak first with Living Donor Together stuff? Or, so we'll start with Jill with some program evaluation stuff, and Kathleen, as our board chair of National Kidney Foundation of Wisconsin, will close this evening. So Jill, the mic is yours.
Thank you, Michelle. I just want to see if I can see myself, but I cannot see myself. Okay. The only reason I want to see myself is because Heather, I wanted to show you, and okay, now I can see myself. Heather, I wanted to show you and everybody else when you showed the kidney doll, my recipient and I each have one of those too, but I don't know if you knew this or not, but they make kidney slippers just like them now. So I'm actually wearing them tonight. So I wanted to share them. I actually got them for Christmas, but I actually bought them for my recipient, Sarah, for her birthday in October. So you can actually get these matching kidney slippers. These are actually brand new, but they're from I Heart Guts, which is, you know, that's who makes all those plush. They actually they make a plush uterus too, in case anyone's interested. But they just came out with these. You can actually get them on Amazon too, so you don't have to get them on I Heart Guts, but they do have them on Amazon as well. So I just want to show you the slippers. And Karen, I just wanted to say about your story, I actually think it's really cool. I mean, I don't know how close you are with your brother normally, but I just think, you know, so many people talk about how, you know, their sister was with them or their mom, you know, if it's a female, and then the males, if their brother or their dad. I just think it's neat with the brother-sister relationship, you know, that your brother was with you. I just thought that that was really kind of a neat, a special thing. And
it was very special because at the time, my brother and I were a little bit estranged.
Okay.
And he stepped up out of the blue before anybody else in the family did, to say he would take his medical leave with me. So I have to tell you, in my story, he is as important as, you know, me giving the kidney away was, having him be next to me. So yeah, I'm really blessed. Really.
That was just really, it's just struck me, you know, it was something about the brother sister. I don't have any brothers, I only have sisters, but I don't know, it just struck me as really kind of neat that you had that brother sister thing. So I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you.
And Heather, your story mirrors mine so much. I have so many of those signs throughout the whole thing. And in fact, at one point I was like, okay, God, you've got like the biggest sense of humor, like of anybody I know. At one point, we actually walked into a local Culver's when I was kind of going through my story and kind of going through the whole process. And everywhere there was signs through this whole Culver's. I mean, literally, it looked like they had just peppered the place with signs that said, save a life, be a living kidney donor. Well, it turned out one of the employees at Culver's needed a kidney, but it was so ridiculously out there. You know, it was just, and I walked in and I just started laughing and I just said, all right, God, I get it. You know, this was like the sixth sign I had. So anyway, I just had to point that out too. So I love both of your stories. I think they're just absolutely fantastic. So thank you so much. Sarah wanted me to point out, and I'm glad you did mention this, Sarah, that if you use Amazon Smile, if you order those slippers or anything else you order from Amazon, you can actually put them as, you can put the National Kidney Foundation of Wisconsin as your foundation or your charity to receive a percentage of your sales back from them. So make sure you do that if you get a chance. If you have somebody else that you have already on there, great. But if you don't have anybody and you want to use Amazon Smile and put them on, that would be fantastic. We would really appreciate that. There's also a survey. I think we should be getting that sent out, right, Kathleen? Sent out to all the participants? Okay. We'd really appreciate it if you would fill out the survey, just kind of telling us what you think about our webinar. We, you know, try to do a variety of things over the last couple of years as we've had our webinars going on. We've done a variety of different education. This past year has been just telling our stories. So really your feedback helps us to plan upcoming future webinars, and we're hoping that you'll join us in the future. We have a fun one next month, which is February 16th. It's Tuesday, February 16th, so mark it on your calendars. That will actually be just kind of an informal social type of Zoom. So a special Valentine's Day informal get together that we plan to have that day. So we're really looking forward to that and hoping that you'll join us for that. Certainly reach out at any time if you have questions, if you have concerns, if you have ideas. Michelle and I are both very open to that. Kathleen, you know, at the National Kidney Foundation, very open to those ideas. Reach out to Sarah, as she mentioned. If you can help her out on March 2nd, fantastic. Please reach out to her. If you have questions about the advocacy, or if you even have comments or suggestions, please reach out to Sarah. She's very, very open, and the girl knows everything about this. So please reach out to her. I think that's it for me. And so I will pass it back over to Michelle to close us for tonight.
And I have the honor of thanking Kathleen again for being with us this evening for the kickoff Living Donors Together Wisconsin program. Kathleen, I'll let you wrap it up for us this evening.
All right. Thanks so much, Michelle. I can't even tell you, every single time I hear stories, I pick up the phone and I hear stories. I walk in front of people and I hear stories, and I'm just reading some of the comments from tonight. Yvonne, know that we're sending positive thoughts and prayers your way for tomorrow's surgery. That's just brilliant. I just can't even imagine the bundle of emotions that you have. Also, Craig, a quote that I'm going to take with me forever. It's not the gift of not only life, but the gift of love. I mean, that's just like a new slogan that I'm going to take forward as I talk to people. So I'm just very touched, and I can't thank all of our speakers, you know, Heather and Sherry and Karen and everybody who spoke, telling the intimate details of their stories. I mean, is what's really helping Yvonne get through, and telling the intimate details of you know, the gifts of life. The Karen, I'm sorry, Sherry gave me the love of sugar. I mean, what fun is that? I mean, it just doesn't get any better. So I'm just truly honored to be a part of this presentation, and thank you for welcoming me again. I just wanted to remind everybody that I will be making personal introductions of our new CEO, and do know that we will always be available. You can call us at the office all the time. I've been picking up the phone a lot lately and talking to some wonderful people. Any new ideas, any people you would like for us to reach out to, we'd be glad to do that. We also just wanted to remind you that we do have some upcoming events as well. They shared with you about the February 16th event. So we're going to be, thanks, John, for putting that up. But we have on Tuesday, March 16th, Living Donation and Community of Color. That's going to be a real important one, because we all do know not only does COVID hit the community of color differently, but transplantation is very common in the community of color. So it's really important that we, that's a really great topic to talk to. And then of course, Tuesday, February 9th with Living Well After Transplant, we're talking about mindful matters of the heart, self-care practice for challenging times. And then Tuesday, March 9th, a physician's confession, you know, what I wish every patient would ask me. Again, another powerful presentation. So we're honored to be a part of this presentation series with Living Donors Together and with Living Life After Transplant. So we really do hope that you can join us. Remember, you can continue to follow us on Facebook. You can also continue to follow us on Twitter as well. So we do look forward to, and I wanted to thank Jill and Michelle for allowing us the opportunity. Have a great night, everybody.